Hello, everybody. Welcome to ETS. I apologize for the dog shit audio. I know it sounds like I'm talking through a potato, but I just wanted to go over something very, very quick here, and I'm gonna get my mic fixed soon. Don't worry. But basically, I want to go over what I went over the last few videos, which was the higher time frame, right? Trading with the higher time frame. Okay, and I'm gonna show you a a setup that I took today that was in line with the higher time frame. Okay, and I'm gonna explain everything. Don't worry, I'll break everything down. But yeah, let's get into it. So gold, all right. So I'm gonna go over the signal days and everything like that, in the future. But I just want to go over just the higher time frame thesis template, whatever, right? So we went over 3-day setups and three session setups in one of the first videos. We didn't go over 3-day setups as much, but we went over the 3-session setup, right? But basically, the 3-day setup is a three session setup, right? That happens, pump, whatever, coil, dump. That happens over 3 sessions, right? That's my three session setup, okay? So the same thing could happen over 3 days, okay? So day 1, right, would be our Wednesday. Day 2, and then day 3 would be our Friday, right? So, yeah. So trading with the higher time frame, okay? So that's just on the day itself. But trading with the higher time frame, I explained to you in one of the videos where trading at the higher low of the week, whatever, this and that, right? So on this week itself, right, this is gold right now at its current moment. It's at around $4,000 per ounce. So just looking back this way, right, looking to the left of the chart, we can see that gold has pumped up outside of not just the previous week's high, but the week before that and the week before that's high, right? They pumped up into the large peak formation that they made on the in the middle of October, right? Basically the reversal, right? They pumped up into that, into our backside of the week, all right, which is going to be our Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They pumped up into that, and they gave us a first red day. So this is a signal day. First red day is a signal day. Again, I'll go over it in another video, but you don't really need to know that for this information to help you, if that makes sense, okay? So this information will help you regardless of what strategy or whatever you're trading, right? So it'll give you a better understanding of really what's going on around here, right? So we have the market pumped up. They broke this level is marked off. They broke the previous 3 weeks highs, right? So after a range expansion from the low of the month / low of the week, they started to expand the range. They pumped up higher, right? And anytime you see a market, pump up really high or whatever, it's always going to crash harder than it climbed, basically, right? It's always going to crash a lot harder than it climbed, okay? I hope my audio is good. Yeah, okay. So yeah, they pumped up. They broke the previous week's high, right? Significant level, and they made a peak formation. They broke back down. They made a lower low on the inside. So they broke out, and this market has failed. They failed to break out. They came back inside, and then they pumped up again. They made another peak formation in Asia, okay, and then in the gap time, right? So I'm not saying this setup happened, for us to take or whatever, but in the gap time, this market ended up rolling over and collapsing in the gap time between Asia and London, and then in the gap time between London and New York. Okay. Now there was a low of day, low session reversal opportunity here you could take, right? But the larger scale trade setup, trading with the higher time frame, right? Remember I told you guys in the last video, the higher time frame is above these levels, right? All you got to do is look to your left and see your evidence. Here's your evidence right here. Boom, peak formation. They break back down. Boom, they break back down inside of the previous day's high range and the previous this weekly level range, right? They broke back down inside, and then they started to pump up. Now this market is weakening, and they gave again the setup in the gap time between Asia and London, and then London kind of went sideways, whatever. You still could have gotten in at the high of the session here, whatever. And they, in the gap time, again, between London and New York, they collapsed, right? Look at how hard it fell. Look at how long it took this market to pump up. 4 days. And within a matter of 1 day, from high to low, they collapsed 1,600 pips, okay? That's a lot of money. Almost $150, $160. It's a lot of money, okay? So that's what I mean by, markets fall harder than they climb, right? So again, just to clarify, to trade with the higher time frame, okay? The higher time frame are chilling above these levels, right? They're chilling above these levels, okay? We're going to go over a few more instruments here. All right, guys, I'm back. Just had to do a mic check real quick. Again, audio is still kind of dog shit. I will work on that. But I just wanted to go over my NASDAQ trade for today, okay? So this was basically the same thing, right? So we had a market, right, where they pumped up on the front side of the week, right? They made a first red day. Again, it's very similar to gold. They were, pumped up to the highs, whatever, this and that. And then they started to dump down, right? They started to dump down. They closed in breakout, right, which was, a signal, which I'll go over later. Okay, and then they started to dump down into the, not just the previous week's low, okay, and they broke the low, but the week before that, all right, and the low of the current month, which is this, right? This is the low of the current month. All right, so now we're at the extreme, okay? And I'm going to show you guys where I did get in a little bit late here, right? This is a very late setup, or I'm sorry, a late trade, right? Now, I told you guys about the trap and shift before, right? The coil, boom, trap and shift. They trap lower level shorts at the bottom and shift the market quickly, okay? I told you guys before that this market, or this setup, will move quickly, okay? So, again, I did get in a little late here, right? Off the New York Open, right? Because we trade U.S. indexes at New York Open or after, right? Off the rip, they made a boom, pin hammer, and they went down and they dumped down into the low day level. And they dumped down into the higher time frame, okay? The higher time frame buyers are below this level, okay? This is an extreme, guys. I want you to understand that. When I'm explaining to you the higher time frame and I'm drawing these levels, we are drawing it from the extreme, and we're working and trading from the extreme with our setups, okay? Same thing that I explained in the last video and some of this video too, right? We're just working from the highs and the lows, okay? So I was looking at a few other instruments today. I got a little sidetracked, and I did get in a little late here, so I missed out on about 60 pips, but I got in, okay? I didn't wait for it to come back and, lock in the low, because I know that when a trap and shift setup occurs at the extreme, it's going to go, and it's not going to come back, okay? It's not going to give you an opportunity, basically, okay? It's not going to give you an opportunity to get back in on the retest or whatever, okay? When you have a trap and shift setup, it's going to go. It is going to leave very quickly, and that's what it did here, okay? Now, I had my take profit at the low of the day, which was the breakout level, okay? And I did not hold all the way up until then. I have some screenshots here to show you. So I got in here. This is where I got in. I took partials, so I drew my range expansion tool. I don't think I went over that, but it's basically the high and low of this box, right? A range expansion, and I took partials at the 100% expansion, and then I full closed heading into our 4-hour window. Now, I'll go over the timings in another video. There's a lot to go over, really, but I just want to show you guys, just for the higher time frame, okay? We're trading with the higher time frame at the extremes. Now, there's technically two types of trades you can look at for, higher time frame, right? So, the market's going up, and you get a dump, a coil, and then a potential pump for the entry if price is set up right. That's trading with the higher time frame, right? On a visual note, I guess you could say. So, yeah, you might ask me like, hey, what if, this is the higher time frame here? Correct. You're right. That's why it's a nail and bail. That's why we get in and we get out, okay? Because we have a market that is being driven down further and further. However, we still are eligible to take the trade because we're at the low of the week. And we broke the low of the week level, and we have a setup. We have our dump, coil, trap, and shift setup, okay? So the other side of the I guess you could say higher time frame would be the highs, basically the reversal trade, right? where you would see a setup, either the lock and the high setup or the trap and shift setup, and then at the high of the week or high of the month, whatever, and then you would get in based off of that, right? Now, again, this is, I guess you could say, more difficult, quote unquote, to hit, because sometimes you can be trapped in a market, especially for anybody that's new. You can be trapped in a market that's potentially in breakout or whatever, right? And it's still making higher highs. But for anybody that's new, focus on looking to the left. If you see, you must see the data, right? You must see this data. So as you're coming to the screen and you see a market pumping up, right, or dropping, whatever, and they start to dump down and coil sideways, right, in a market that's pumping up, right, you would trade with, and they give you a 3-session setup, 1, 2, 3, you would get in trading with the higher time frame, okay? That's what we're looking for, okay? Trading with the, that was a bad arrow, with the higher, that was also a bad arrow, with the higher time frame, okay? Now again, this trade was basically this one, but it was a trap and shift at the low, at the extreme, okay? So it was a market that had, dumped down, right, and then started to coil and then trap and shift, okay? I want to show you one more example here. Euro AUD, oh wait, where is it? This one, okay. Euro AUD, okay? This one is very, very clear in, showing you the higher time frame. Don't worry about this level here. My indicator is tweaking, but this level means nothing right now. But we are trading from the high of the, I believe, month. No, not the, yes, the high of the month. Okay. So November started here. This is the high of the month. Okay. So now we have the higher time frame up high, right? Price started to, they broke the low of the month and low of the week. Okay. And then they started to pump up, right? They started to coil, and then they pumped up outside the high of the day, right? The higher time frame is driving this market down. The higher time frame is driving this market down, okay? And we have our engulfment, right? Our triple top, whatever, locking the high setup right at the high of the day, right after price has been pumping up. Okay, now on a bigger scale, it's technically a trap and shift setup because we're trapping the longs up high and we're shifting the market. And look at how quickly this market moves, very quickly. Okay, now it did come back a little bit just to wick back up, but immediately shot back down. Okay, beautiful setup. Again, this was on the same day. I wasn't looking at this this instrument, but beautiful setup. And it's just to show you guys, again, just to show you the higher time frame is sitting above this level. Okay, I hope that makes sense. They're sitting above this level waiting to drive the market down. Okay, thank you for watching this video. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. This is some very valuable information. Again, I'll go over everything in another in more videos. There's a lot to go over. I'm gonna organize it in playlists. That way you guys can have it, so where you can jump from one playlist to another in order. That way you can get the information chronologically. Okay, so if you guys, again, if you guys have any questions, any kind of questions, let me know in the comments. I'll be happy to explain it. Please don't ask questions about close and breakout or whatever 4-hour rotation, because I will go over that in more videos. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, and like and subscribe. Appreciate you guys watching. Thank you very much. I'm out.